All of a sudden, everybody loves Leagues Cup. That and a whole lot more coming up on NYCFC Views Live.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. NYCFC Views.
Collins approaches the shot, and New York City wins the first MLS Cup on their first try, and they're going crazy. Tiene tiro y gol! Gol! New York City es el campeón de Major League Soccer.
The sickest New York City FC podcast. It's gonna be sick.
Well, I'll tell you what, Tigres hosting New York City at Red Bull Arena kind of brought you back to those glory days of 2021, Roberto, when New York City hoisted the MLS Cup, winning in Portland on penalties. They had to beat New England in penalties. That's 2 penalty kick shootouts. Same kind of thing here with Leagues Cup. We know the aura of Leagues Cup does not maybe represent what people really want in MLS, but now you're like, well, we're in the quarterfinals, man. Let's see if we can win this. By the way, I'm Glenn Crooks. There's Roberto Abramowitz. We both called the game last night at Red Bull Arena, and it really was. And I know I saw you put it out on Twitter today or X, Roberto, regarding what Ariel said. We said the same thing. We can't remember a match in a long time that rivaled that one in terms of just feeling good about the side, feeling good about the squad. I mean, from start to finish.
Yeah, that the first thing that comes to mind for me from that game was just it was fun. Just how much fun was that game from beginning to end? This is what you want. It was pure entertainment from the first moment. I mean, Pizarro almost not Pizarro. Who was it?
Cordova.
I'm forgetting.
Cordova.
Yeah, Cordova.
Inside a minute, took a cross and headed it in the perfect spot. And Matt Freese, who I think was shaky at times in his performance, but he comes up with this huge stave. I don't know. Maybe it was 40 seconds into the match. It was crazy.
It was, and it was, but the whole game was just so much fun and well played. I think there is a lot of positive performances, and it's one of the best games that New York City's played in a long, long time. And when you start considering, right, because when we spoke about the game against New England, right, when we spoke about the game against New England, it was about, all right, you won that, you won on penalty kicks, but now you're stepping up in category. It's not only the fact that you're going to be playing at home, quote unquote. The fan base was divided. It was half for Tigres, half for New York City of the 12,000 and change that was announced that showed up last night. Those were tickets distributed as far as fannies and seats, probably anywhere between 8 to 10. And it was just a great atmosphere.
A lot of noise.
A lot of noise. I mean, can you imagine what that place sounds like? And we've seen it, right? When that place is full. When
New York City's been at Red Bull Arena, since they've been at Red Bull Arena, where they play a number of games when Citi Field and Yankee Stadium aren't available. This has been going on for years now. When they're the home team, which they sort of were last night, right?
Yeah.
I thought that was the loudest crowd in their history playing at home at Red Bull Arena. It was there was atmosphere, and certainly the Tigres fans, and you could hear because
they brought it,
deriding the officials, deriding the New York City players, and Matt Freese. Although Guzman, he had to hear it from the New York City supporters in the opening half. That was interesting.
That was interesting, and I was really disappointed. I was so disappointed. The last thing we need is that chant from our fans, right? From the American fans. We don't need that. And, then they had to start playing music every time somebody had a goal kick for the rest of the game. That was just uncalled for, unnecessary. I mean, I like to think that our fans have a lot of class. The guys who did that just didn't. I'm very disappointed in that. I hope it never repeats itself. I really don't. Yeah, we don't need that. You can get to him in different ways. There's a whole bunch of ways that you can do that. You don't need the YSA chant, and you don't need the P chant. It's just Don't need that. Find other ways. Be creative. Be creative. Don't do that.
Be creative. Yes, be creative.
I mean, they had to be warned twice during the game. And that just soured me a little bit. I just want to get back to the game and the action, and that was fantastic. And the one thing that the Tigres fans did by being as loud as they did, they forced the New York fans to be just as loud as well, and basically it became a competition of how much noise you can make supporting your team, which made the place just really vibrate, for being half full. And for there to be that sort of atmosphere, that was a lot of fun.
And kudos to the New York City supporters who maybe never made the trek across the Hudson River or underneath the Hudson River, however you decide to get to New Jersey and go to this game and support their side. And I think Nick Cushing was very sincere about how the atmosphere really played a role in New York City's ability to come back from the 1-0 deficit. And the goal surrendered was, I'll tell you, the set piece defending, Roberto, it's a concern. There's no other way to look at it. I mean, how many free headers are you going to give up in front of goal? And on this one, this is a corner kick goal. And the reason why, it was a corner, there was a shot, Freese makes the save, and it's the second phase of the corner. And then Coriaca had the uncontested service from the edge of the box. He's at the edge of the penalty box, and no one stepped to deny the cross.
Nobody stepped to deny the cross. That was one. And then Hannes Wolf lost Pizarro because Hannes Wolf was running back with Pizarro, and then he decided to ball watch, and he stopped, and then Pizarro just went, and he was wide open for the header.
Yeah, we saw it a little – no, that could be. But we saw it a little differently in that a lot of this setup defensively on a corner for New York City is zonal. And because of that, there was no clear marker there. So I'm going to watch that again. I don't think we really noticed Hannes Wolf losing his mark. What we saw is Pizarro just delaying his run and then bursting in. And then you have all these zonal guys. Hey, here's what's going on with zonal marking off of corner kicks, all right? If the ball is in your area, you attack the hell out of it. You go for it. And it happened to Keaton Parks. Keaton Parks had his best game of 2024. No one will argue with that. But Herrera, right after he came on as a substitute, beat Parks again off a corner for a free header that hits the post. That could have put them up 2-1, and now the entire complexion of the game changes.
100%.
Parks cannot allow that header to occur, whether he's set up zonally or not. You attack the ball, and that is that. And that's why set pieces decide games. You could imagine the crime it would have been, the dismay that would have ensued if you lose that game or don't advance in that game, because there's a couple of instances where you lose focus or don't maybe go for it. You don't have the appetite to do it. And it's something that's got to be really driven into these guys. It's not good lately. It's not good. But, I mean, the game itself was fantastic.
Yes, it
played
was.
so well. But you've got to take care of these little these are not little things. They're huge, but they're those finite details that you got to take care of, man.
Well, they have, I'm sure they had a day off today. They'll practice tomorrow and then on Friday, they'll have another practice before they travel to Columbus. So they've got 2 days to be able to try to figure out what to do defensively as far as set pieces and near the box and corner kicks. Because, it becomes scary. It shouldn't be that way. You shouldn't have to be scared because you've given up a corner kick. But that's what's been going on.
And I thought Tigres, maybe other teams have done this before, Roberto, but I haven't seen it. You know how New York City on set pieces that are outside of the area, 35, 40 yards, they set a very high defensive line. So Tigres had an angled set piece, severe angle to the right, about 40 yards out. That line came up almost level with the ball, and they played a ground ball down the right channel to try to get a runner. And I think it was Alonso Martinez who was very alert and defended it well. But that's the way to beat that high line. And that was the first time I've seen a team try it. Ethan H., who is watching us live here on NYCFC Views, says, "Hi, fellas. This was our best win in the Cushing tenure, in my opinion." There's Ethan. And he could very well be correct with that. I mean, unless you want to go 3-1 at Montreal to get into the Eastern Conference Final in 2022.
Yeah, this had a better, I mean, as important as that was, I think this had a little bit of a better feeling, right? Because of the level of talent that you're playing against. Tigres is better than Montreal, even a Wilfred Nancy Montreal team that was doing very well at the time that New York City went up to Saputo and beat them 3-1. To beat Tigres, where New York City wasn't favored, and New York City wasn't favored. I mean,
well, look at
Tigres came in winning 5 in a row. Hold on,
No, I want it. What you just said. Let me share this, and then you say the rest. Okay, on FOTMob, they have some sort of betting service. 5,646 people put in wagers, asking the question, "Who will win?" 71% said Tigres, 20% New York City FC. Go ahead.
There you go. And yeah, Tigres had won 5 in a row, hadn't lost in 7. The last time that they lost was in the Supercopa when they lost to America in LA 2-1. So that's the two champions meeting. And aside from that, they hadn't lost. They didn't lose in Mexican League and they hadn't lost in League's Cup. They had looked okay. I mean, they beat a good Pachuca team by 1-0 in Austin. And, they came in as solid favorites because they played all their good players. I mean, if you could argue.
Hold on. Their two best attacking players started the game on the bench. So I have to stop you there because you have to consider Gignac. He's 38. We know that. He doesn't come in until the 72nd, 73rd minute. And the kid in the midfield, he's 27 years old, Brunetta, he's got to be one of the best number 10s in the Mexican League. He has to be. And he didn't come in until the 61st minute. I was going to ask what you and Ariel thought of the fact that those guys were on the sideline at the start of the match. I thought that played in favor of New York City pretty heavily. Ibanez is a good player.
But I mean, it's a rotation of a squad when you have so many games coming up in a short period of time. As you said, he's 38 years old. He started the last game. And so, it's going to be hard with travel and everything else. You're traveling from Austin where it was hot as hell. And then you come into New York and all that. And
you don't think
it's hard to start.
We speculated that the Tigres thought, well, we've seen New York City the last 3 matches. And let's face it, not good. And maybe they took them a little lightly in terms of the 11. They came out in a ferocious way. It's not like they took their foot off the accelerator, but they didn't start their best team. That's all
they didn't. But again, they rotate just like New York City does rotations on the forward line as well. I mean, you and I, we agree.
Do not compare Alonso Martinez, Monsef Bakrar, or Jovan Mijatovic with Gignac. Please do
I'm not comparing them. I'm not comparing them. I'm comparing the rotation of the position, especially when you're considering that the guy who only played 20 minutes, is 38 years old. And he plays, and he doesn't walk around the field. He's very physical.
How old is Matthew Morales?
He's 37, but
he's 37, and he's playing the midfield the entire game. Go ahead.
All right.
Well, he came out late. But almost the full match. I'm just saying.
Then go speak to Velko. Right? Go speak to Pano and say, hey, what the hell are you doing? Were you overconfident? Did you really look down on New York City and thought that you can put your 2 best players on the bench and still win without a problem?
I would ask him. I know him pretty well.
Let's ask him.
I was disappointed that I didn't get a chance to say hello before the game, but Velko and I became pretty close after I did something at the convention. We did a one-on-one for an hour in front of the convention crowd. And it went really well. And that's when he was a coach at Chicago Fire. Yeah. He's had some interesting stops along the way. And this one, boy, this is gold. If he can make this work and maintain a high level. But how long will they be tolerant if it doesn't go well for some reason?
Well, the last coach, they seem to have, if you listen to Mexican reports, invented nasty things about him, that he had an affair with a woman player on the Tigres women's team. This was Dante Siboldi. They have all this stuff that happened, and that's why Siboldi They, instead of just firing Siboldi because whatever the reason, because he's a really good coach, Roberto Dante Siboldi, they all of a sudden, all these rumors started coming out about him that, according to the media, seem to have been started by the team itself, by the hierarchy and the team itself. And then they let him go because of that. Siboldi kept quiet for 6 weeks and then ripped the team a new one. And then, after Siboldi was gone, they hired Panovich. So it's Mexico. If he doesn't win, he'll last 18 months.
All right. Well, Pizarro scores the opening goal in the 18th minute, Roberto. And our big thing was, how is New York City going to respond? So here's how they responded. Now, Jimmy, I think you have the English and Spanish call with Maxi Morales. Is that correct? And if so, play the English first and then the Spanish, and then we'll reverse for the next one. Go ahead.
Well, they won the ball in the penalty area and finishes, and it's Maxi Morales. There were 3 players who helped turn the ball over. Well, the ball was played forward to Maxi Morales, and a through ball was defended, but then New York City converged, and then Morales got a quick 2-touch shot off from the right side, and he buried it. That's a striker's finish there for Maxi Morales. Low to the back post, beats Guzman. It's 1-1, and there you go, Matty. Just as you were describing, how will New York City answer?
How will they respond? They respond with real quality, and it's all about Maxi Morales. He wins the ball back. Jesus Angulo dithers with the ball on the edge of the penalty area. He takes 2 or 3 touches. He doesn't want to sweep it clear with his right foot because he's left-footed. He gets in, toe pokes it away, Morales, and then that shot across the face of the goalkeeper, absolutely perfect. Textbook shooting practice there from Maxi Morales. Finds the far corner. Boy, have we got a game on our hands here, Glenn.
So I've got 2 reactions to the goal.
Well, here we go.
Oh, okay.
Y ahora rápidamente quiso cobrar Tigres, la termina ganando Santi toca para
wrong goal.
Santi, gol!
All right, that's the wrong
one.
goal, but that's the game winner. That's okay. If we could now they win the match in the second half. The Maxi Morales goal came in the 20th minute. Go ahead.
2 things, okay? First one, as Maddie mentioned, what the hell is Angulo doing? What is Jesus Angulo doing with the ball? Okay, yes, he's got a player that's next to him and all that, and then he decides he's going to try to get cute and step on it and go around, and Maxi Morales just goes and picks his pocket, and it's a great heads-up play by Morales and New York as they converge on the ball there, which is great defending from the forward position, which is what you're supposed to do, and then he just went in and. He scores there, and it's his first goal since 2022 for New York City for Morales. The last goal he scored was in Philadelphia in the 3-1 defeat in the playoffs. That was his last goal. It put New York City at 1-0 in that game.
Yeah, things were looking up.
But he tied this, and it was great. I mean, it was great for New York City because of the mentality of the team to go and fight and get that tying goal.
Yeah. And
then going and getting it. And then they knew that they were on equal footing with Tigres. Because I think that the longer that the game had gone on, maybe doubts would have crept in or not. But they came right back. They just came right back and scored and basically we're not afraid of you. It was a message sent. We're not afraid of you. We don't look at you. We're not looking up at you. We're looking at you.
We go into the interval. It's 1-1, and Maxi's involved in the second goal as well. So. Jimmy, that's the one you played in Spanish. The video was not so good, but there we go.
It's that one.
Quiso cobrar Tigres, la termina ganando Santi toca para Morales, Santi, gol de New York City, es Santi Rodríguez, toda la banca se vacía y va a celebrar con él detrás del arco de Nahuel Guzmán. New York City está arriba 2-1.
Y hasta ahora es un planteo quirúrgico de New York City, forzando el error, buscando las grietas en Tigres, en el fondo de Tigres. Nahuel Guzmán está furioso, protestando contra su defensa y también contra los árbitros del partido. Santi Rodríguez, ahora Maxi Morales antes, logra marcar diferencias y ponen por ahora a New York City arriba en esta serie de octavos de final ante nada más y nada menos que Tigres.
All right. So before you play the English version, Jimmy, it was just a great goal. I mean, the combination between Santi and Maxi was just spectacular. There at the top of the box. That's how you beat a really tight, drawn-in defending group, and that's such a veteran back line that Tigres had. What is just fantastic goal, and essentially passing it into the back of the net using his left two-footed player. Matty Lawrence, you'll hear him talk about that in a moment. But the question is on this: did Maxi Morales, before he got the assist on this, encroach on the free kick? All right, because that was taken quick. It was taken quickly, and Maxi ran in front. We feel he either got a touch of the body of the player. I'm trying to remember who. I think it was Carioca who was trying to play it quickly, yeah. And then Maxi kind of ran into him or got a piece of the ball. It's very hard to see. Of course, we didn't see any replays of it of consideration where we could really see it closely. But go to the English call here, Jimmy, and then Roberto and I come out of this and talk about the entire thing.
Right. No, this is
not it, Jimmy. So you want English, Santi Rodriguez goal.
Well, they won the ball in the penalty area.
No, that's not it either. But it's nice to see again.
Yeah, that's the opening goal. When you think you have it, Jimmy, just put a little note in the chat. And then we'll go to it. So here's the thing, though. If and you saw Guzman go crazy because he thought, and what happened if he did encroach and actually got a piece of the ball or bump the player, because you're supposed to be 10 yards away, and he came in from behind, and all those other things. Sometimes if you're standing on the ball and you're a couple of yards away, and they decide to play it, so be it. But this guy was blindsided. He didn't see Maxi coming. Maxi, I think, was doing I think he was pretty coy with it. And then
for sure.
And the intercepts, and then the rest is history.
But I mean, if so this is what I'm going to ask you. So if Carioca decides to play that quickly, right? Then they don't have to be 10 yards away. It's only when the referee stops and then signals, there's got to be, they got to give him space.
But you can't get a piece of the ball or a piece of the player. That becomes a violation or encroachment or whatever word you want to use. That's the thing in question, and I think that's what Guzman was pleading for the video assistant referee to take a closer look at it. And you could tell the referee was having none of it. He was just like, nope, that's a goal.
No, but but it gets replayed. It gets replayed anyway. I mean, that gets reviewed anyway because that's the beginning of the play. So that gets reviewed anyway as part of the goal. And VAR reviews every goal. So VAR was fine with it. Whatever was decided, the goal stood. So VAR didn't have a problem with it.
All right. Jimmy, if you found it yet, I noticed that I sent
Rodriguez with a 1-2 left-footed shot. New York City leads. New York City leads in the 65th minute. Santi Rodriguez working the combination, back on his left foot, slots it past Guzman, and New York City Leagues Cup round of 16. It's 2-1. The boys in blue on top of the gold-clad Tigres, UNAL. There are some appeals to the referee who has nothing of it.
I think it was a free kick for Tigres, wasn't it? And they took it quickly and gave it away. That's the thing. Maxi Morales just gets on the back of Carioca, the free kick taker. Let's see if this gets pulled back. He does make contact. There's nothing wrong with the goal. The goal is exquisite. Maxi Morales and Santi Rodriguez just marauding through the back line of Tigres. And we talk about players who can finish with both feet. There's not many in this New York City FC side, but boy, Santi Rodriguez just passes it into the back of the net.
So Nahuel is yelling, and you see it on camera, and he's doing this, and he's saying, lo empuja. He's pushing him. So he pushed him.
He made contact. That last replay, he made some contact, Maxi.
He made some contact, but the referee, I don't understand that.
But look,
or maybe just New York City got lucky.
Well, you need these sorts of breaks, which, sometimes you go into these skids. Look, New York City hasn't won a game outright since July the 3rd, Roberto. That 2-0 win against Montreal. That's a long time without a victory. Yeah. And for a team that had solved their early season issues. But this is going to be I've already drawn up my questions for Nick Cushing. When is it? Friday, when we do our pregame interview. And one of them is going to be about coaches constantly. And on the Coaching Academy, my show on Sirius XM-FC, which, by the way, starts a new season tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern. So if you're a subscriber, and I've got Bruce Murray. You know Bruce Murray. Former national team player, great forward, great striker. And he wasn't too happy with the U.S. under-23s in the Olympics. So I said, let's bring him on so he can talk about he's very concerned about 2026. So we have a pretty good conversation. But a lot of the discussion is how many in every sport, Roberto, you cover a lot of sports, and you hear coaches constantly talk about the proper mentality, or we were ready to play today, or whatever the words are. The percentage of that versus being able to execute your tactical plan and play with proper technique in the certain moments, because of the number of times coaches refer to it, and you heard Nick last night, he said something to that effect. But the question's going to be, is Keaton Parks going to play like he did in New England, or is he going to play like he did against Tigres? What's going to happen? And why not? Because on any given day, your skill set, you just might not be able to connect the way you normally, your shots may go wide when normally they're on frame. Those things can happen, but your effort should never be questioned. And there's not a single excuse that I can surmise that New York City could have the rest of the way. Whatever happens in Leagues Cup in Columbus on Saturday and the 9 regular games you have left to set up yourself up for the playoffs. No excuse. You've got to come out with don't play down to your opponent. None of that stuff. This is the way you play football. This is the way you play football. Period.
The effort, the mentality from the first minute to the last was as good as I've seen all year long, and maybe in the last 2 years. It was fantastic. They knew what the assignment was, and they executed it. As far as technically what they did, that was different last night than it has been for most of the season, is that they were more precise. Those 1-2s worked. I mean, that great sequence between Santi and Morales for the second goal is because the ball was placed in the proper place at the proper pace, right onto his left peg where he could just set it up and score. So there was a lot of that, as opposed to balls that were 3 yards wide, 2 yards high. All those things where the imprecisions can freaking kill you. There weren't that many last night. I mean, there was a couple of shots that were wide and all that, but Nahuel Guzman had to make 2 ridiculous saves on Santi Rodriguez. He had to make 2 ridiculous saves on Santi.
The left-footed shot was very good from Santi from about, 25 yards out. But I wouldn't call that to refer to that save as spectacular, I think, is overstating it. He should have made the save. I think that's a save, but I'm not demeaning the shot. And by the way, he took it with the left peg. I really do like Maddie's commentary on the goal, that there aren't many players on New York City that are 2-footed. And Hannes Wolf is one. How many times is Hannes Wolf going to get in on the right and then demand that he cuts it to his left, and then he loses the opportunity? A guy with 5 goals and 7 assists. He's having a great statistical year, but it could be better. It could be better.
Yeah, I mean, there were some opportunities that were passed up because they weren't confident with the foot that they had to shoot with. And I think that they've got to take their chances. Instead of trying to find the next perfect pass as defenses collapse on them, I just think that they've got to take their chances. And I was happy to see Santi fire from outside the box as well, because there's got to be more of that. You can't let them feel comfortable that you're going to try to walk the ball in. You can't let them feel comfortable.
How much fun was it to the privilege to provide live commentary? And we had a lot of people listening to us last night. That you need to sync the hometown radio with the video in every match, home or away. You have to do it. And I say that if you're a New York City supporter, I don't understand. And look, these guys, these men and women are friends of ours. They're professionals. Doesn't mean they're bad broadcasters. But no one can present New York City like we can. They can't. because we travel with the team. We're hopping on the charter on Friday. We're going to have conversations in the lobby. We're going to have a coffee with so-and-so, and it's all going to happen. And we're embedded with the team in essence, and it just gives us more of an idea to be able to present you with things we see at training, things and conversations we have. So I just thought
we have more insight.
Now, the other question I'm going to have for Nick is the number 9. I think it's still a dilemma. Alonso Martinez has shown that he's really not a particularly effective starter. 6 of his 8 goals are off the bench, if I have that correct. Then you've got Jovan Mijatovic. What are they going to do in order to make that work if he's going to play? Because so far, it's not working. And then Monsef Bakrar was given the chance, and now he still comes in a reserve role, and he did start against Querétaro, and not much happened. Jovan Mijatovic got his first goal finally against New England, and it's a good finish, but not much else, and he finished his penalty, so we know he's brave, but how is he fitting into the system? So the number 9 spot, as far as how you're going to advance, get into the playoffs, and how deep you're going to make a run in the MLS playoffs, I think is a pretty critical point.
And I'm going to disagree a little bit here with you, because I think that with Martinez on the field as a starter, he has an opportunity to – the defenses can't play too high, because if they start playing too high, that means that they're going to throw long balls over the top, and he's going to run them down, and he's going to get them. And he had a couple of chances against Tigres that way. I think that the team looks better offensively and is more dangerous offensively with Martinez on the field. And he hasn't gotten the same opportunity that Bakrar has as far as a starter is concerned. And we'll leave Mijatovic out of this a little bit. And I was really happy that he was able to score a goal in Cincinnati, and he was able to and finally break that 0, and then have a really good penalty. Against Querétaro.
Remember what Nick said about his penalty? He was number 4, and that's all they needed to get past New England. And James Sands. So Rob Vertughian makes the lineup. He makes the penalty kick lineup for the shootout. And then he gives it to Nick. And Nick, as Nick said, he goes, I make the final decision because I'm the head coach.
Right.
And he switched. So Rob had Sands in the number 4 slot. And Nick switched Sands out, put him at number 6 and Mijatovic at number 4. And he essentially gets the game-winning penalty against New England. Interestingly enough, no, excuse me, that was Querétaro. No, I'm getting my penalties mixed up. That was Querétaro.
That's Querétaro.
Querétaro is when Sands was switched out and Mijatovic scored the 4th PK.
Right.
Against New England, it went to 7 kicks. Nick didn't make any changes. And you notice James Sands was in the 4 hole and converted his penalty. And Mijatovic, he was off because he had started the game and he was subbed for. So he was no longer on the pitch. And so I thought that was pretty interesting too.
I thought the other thing that was interesting to me was Justin Hack, because they gave him the 7 spot, right? And Nick told us he had never taken a penalty.
Hack told us that.
Yeah, well, Hack.
Remember, he walked past us in training, and I said, "Hey, man, nice PK. When's the last time you made one of those?" He said, "I have never taken a competitive penalty kick before, ever." And I was
That's crazy.
Shocked. I was shocked. A guy with that
pride of environmental studies high school here in Manhattan.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
You think the high school coach would have put him on the spot?
But maybe no, he wasn't. He didn't play for the environmental studies team. He didn't play because he was with the academy. He was with the New York Academy, so he didn't play.
That's right. Well, that's a good call.
So at least I can tell him, by the way, that Eddie has one more goal in high school than he has.
All right. Very good, Roberto.
For the same school.
And I have 2 more. So there you go. But not at the same school. Yeah, I didn't score many in high school. And I was a winger. That's pretty bad. Hey, one thing before we go. In that New England game, the Sands brothers were caught on camera by New York City FC. And then I thought Chris Campbell put out a cute tweet. Jimmy, if you could put up that screenshot of the and Chris Campbell said, the math nerd in me sees 2 times 3 equals 6. Will Sands and James Sands. But that's nice that they got a chance to play against each other in an MLS game. And I know James is very proud of his brother, and likewise on the other side. And so they got a chance to meet. And James Sands converted his penalty. Now, I was not surprised he would make it. And I don't know what you guys were thinking at the time, because do you remember that Sands converted the decisive penalty in the U19 Development Academy National Championship game for the NYC Academy? So
against the LA Galaxy, the vaunted LA Galaxy, who had Efrain Alvarez on that team. They had a whole bunch of really good players that later became, mainstays for the Galaxy and then otherwise. And yes, I do remember that game. And yes, and it was Sands who buried the last one, the winning goal.
So we know
for
that
New York City, and I mentioned it, by the way, on the broadcast. So
well, you're fantastic. And,
thank you very much.
No, but that's part of the information I was talking about earlier. I'm telling you right now, the Apple lead commentator will not be talking about James Sands in his academy days. It ain't happening, even though I respect them and they're professionals. You're just not going to get the inside.
I'm not getting into that conversation. I mean, I'm happy if people listen. If people listen to us, I'm very, very happy. Speaking of which, we're going to be back on. We're going to be back on Sirius this Saturday rather. So we're going to be on channel 999 on Sirius for our broadcast in Spanish.
Awesome.
So I'm very happy about that, and I have you to thank.
Well, we're going to get you on
there for all of this. So I just want to do that publicly.
As long as Inter Messi keeps getting eliminated and aren't on the schedule, your games are going to get up.
So they're having a doubleheader. They're going to do a doubleheader. They're going to do our game and then the Seattle game right afterwards.
Yeah.
So that's on channel 999 on your Sirius app.
Well,
I don't know if you get 999 in your car. I don't know how new your car has to be, but if not, it's definitely on the app and just stream it, use CarPlay or whatever.
Yeah, I think it's just on the app, but. Anyway, they're staggering the start times. So we're the kickoff event on Saturday, the 6:00 kickoff at lower.com field. So let's look at the opponent a little bit. Columbus is down 2-0 to Inter Messi without Messi. And then they score 3 goals after the 62nd minute, 2 of them by Diego Rossi. And I tell you, you have to love Columbus. I mean, it's just watching them play is a joy. And if New York City, if they can maintain the tempo and the desire and the appetite and the willingness to get forward and the high press, that's the other thing I wanted to say earlier, is that's the difference too this year is they're pressing higher up the pitch. Mm-hmm. They're winning more balls closer to goal.
Yes,
and now you get the quick combination play, and you can bury a lot of teams that way. So we just
both goals came from that.
Yeah. That's
against Tigres.
That's right. That's right. Well, for Diego, I mean, you look at this lineup, and then they traded and got DeJuan Jones is a wingback out of which is perfect for him, better than fullback, right? He's a fullback in New England. Now he's a wingback because they play 3 at the back. I just love every aspect of this team. Cucho.
By the way, Farsi had himself a game, and especially in the second half, and that's going to be a very interesting.
Well, he came off the bench. He didn't start the game. He didn't come in.
Right. I didn't see. I just saw the highlights, but I mean, it seemed like everything that happened in the second half started with Farsi on the right side. So that means that McFarland and whoever is going to be on that side of the defensive midfield for New York City, be it Sands or be it Keaton Parks, they're going to have to be ready because
here's the thing. Wilfred Nancy made 3 changes at the half. Now, I don't know what you were saying. I was not on the New England, New York City broadcast at Gillette. Chris Sakonis filling in for me. And at home, and I was texting Maddie, I was saying there's got to be changes. And there were 2 players in particular. I'm not going to name them because I'm done. I'm done with that right now. But there were 2 players in particular that had to leave the game. And you know what? They eventually were taken out in the second half. But Nick made no changes, which there's 2 sides to that. What you say at halftime is, all right, I'm giving you this many minutes. Yeah. You're my starting group. I have faith in you. We just need to – this is what you need to do. That was not good enough. In fact, it was terrible. It was horrifying, the opening half against New England. But Wilfred Nancy obviously wasn't happy at halftime, so in comes Farsi, in comes Matan, and in comes Christian Ramirez. What does Ramirez do? He scores the first goal to start bringing them back. And then Diego Rossi, Farsi assisting on one of those goals with the brace, and they win 3-2. So,
Rossi's a handful, isn't he? And Cucho didn't seem to have the best of games. He was really frustrated at the end that they didn't pass him the ball on a 3-on-2 that they had because Miami was putting everybody all the way up front. Suarez had himself some nice passes, and the goals that Miami scored were good. But at the end of the day, the relentlessness of Columbus won the day. New York City's going to have to play with the exact same intensity they played against Tigres if they want to win over there.
And then
because now we're talking about the team. We're talking about the best team in MLS.
Yeah, and Columbus is tough. Another thing, you have to be, defending them in the run of play is very difficult. There's a lot of mobility. But when New York City, and you mentioned Alonso Martinez earlier as a guy that maybe I'm not giving enough credit to. I have to agree with you there a little bit too, because as I think back, one of the things he's done very well and it has improved in is the ability to time a check into the midfield, bring a defender with him, and bounce the ball off of midfield. Just kind of he can lay the ball off and make things happen. He had one play which ignited. Remember, it was from him to Parks, and then Parks played Hannes Wolf through, and that's the one where Hannes Wolf, he's in on his right foot. He's at an angle to get to goal. The defender closes him down, cuts to the left, and
goodbye opportunity.
But so Alonso's the man. So let's just stay with. Let's stay.
Thank you.
Martinez. I'm on
let's start Alonso again.
Now we are so we want New York City. It would be another upset because last night was an upset, beating Tigres. Yep. No one expected that, I don't think. And now Columbus at lower.com. And New York City is going to visit lower.com twice in the month of August. The regular season game is on August the 31st. And but if New York City can put in another effort like that, and they've got special players. There's artistic players in that New York City team that can get things done. Then they play the winner of Philadelphia Mazatlan. And if Mazatlan beats Philadelphia and New York City advances past Columbus, New York City will host the semifinal at Red Bull Arena probably next Wednesday. How about that?
That's pretty cool. The other thing that I wanted to say, there's only 2 Mexican teams left. Of course, in Mexico, they're up in arms. They were shocked that New York.
I wanted to ask you that.
Tigres.
So, are they upset? I mean, are things going on down there?
So what they're saying is the Mexican teams didn't take this seriously. They really want to get back and play in their league. Okay. But I mean, the level of
excuses, or is that an excuse, or what's the deal?
Yeah, they're absolutely excuses. That they want to get back in their league. They really don't want to play this tournament. It's an invented tournament to help MLS and to help the Mexican Federation. There's a lot of things. I mean, one of the things that I agree with, and I've been saying since day one with this, there's a level of fairness, and this tournament really isn't fair. It's not about fairness.
Tigres playing at home against Pachuca is at Q2 Stadium, and Tigres playing at home against New York City FC is at Red Bull Arena. You don't think that's fair? Of course it's not. It's crazy.
It's not. They've got to eventually look. Now, without Messi around, right now they're starting to see how many people are really coming to this game. So only America, Chivas would have probably gotten really good crowds, and then Cincinnati was doing very well. But a lot of the U.S. Canadian teams weren't really selling a lot of tickets because they're not part of the season ticket plan. Like a lot of the teams use the first game as part of the season ticket plan. I think last night, part of the reason that they got the 12,000 was because New York City opted all season ticket holders into that game, and then you had 24 hours to get out of the game. At least that's the way I understood it. We opted in, Eddie went to the game.
You think some of the numbers in the 12,000 that was announced were people that maybe didn't opt out, but also didn't go to the game, and then it counted?
Or sold their tickets. Yeah, I mean, there weren't 12,000 people there.
No.
So, there were people that basically either ate their tickets or sold them, or because they didn't opt out in time. That's happened to me in games previous. But it's problematic. So if U.S. teams aren't going to be selling a lot of tickets for some of these games, then if the reason for not going to Mexico because they feel they're not going to be selling a lot of tickets. Well, that goes out in the wash then. And so might as well make this competitively equal by teams that are seated higher than MLS teams should be playing games in Mexico. And I'm a proponent of this as something positive for teams in MLS because I think that teams like New York City getting to play either, if they had gone and had to play in El Volcán, and they got 40,000 people there because they get 42,000 people every game, doesn't matter who they play, okay? That's a good learning experience for New York City. Win, lose, or draw. That's a good learning experience. Ronnie Dial and I used to talk about this a lot, that he wanted to play all these games when they were playing these games. They wanted to play them in Mexico. They didn't want to play them here. He says, we don't learn that much. Want to go play them there. And I'm sure Nick is of the same ilk, although we haven't had that same conversation.
That's why last night was just an advancement, because it's the dark arts. Let's face it. It's the dark arts. And you have to learn how to deal with it. Sometimes you have to learn how to contribute to it. And that's one of the reasons I enjoyed last night's game, too, is that New York City handled a lot of that. Some real quick things before we get to kicking it around. And I know you'd probably want to elaborate on some of this, Roberto. Maybe we just hold off till next time. Tylus Magno, loaned to Corinthians, first game, scores the game-tying goal late for Corinthians. Yes. And then I think it's Tom Bogert is reporting that Jose Martinez, the defensive midfielder for the Philadelphia Union, is going to be possibly joining Magno with Corinthians. Another former New York City player.
$3 million, I think it is, plus a 15% sell-on.
Andres Jason scored his first goal since his move from New York City to Aalborg, 3-2 win in their match. That happened recently. Tim Ream to Charlotte. And this one, you put it into the group text. I had seen it, but Shaqiri mutually terminated his contract with the Chicago Fire. What a shocker. I feel good for Frank Klopas because he had to deal with that. He had to answer questions about it. Well, we're trying to figure out when he'll come back. He wasn't coming back, and they finally figured it out. And they got Ariel Lassiter from Montreal. I suppose that's that's not really a like-for-like replacement.
A like-for-like.
Yeah. So Lassiter. Jaquil Marshall-Ruddy goes from Toronto to Montreal, where he'll now be making false claims in another Canadian province. Caden Clark, talk about players whose stock has gone down. He goes from Minnesota to Montreal for $50K GAM.
Wow.
And a second-round draft pick. Remember Caden Clark when he was with the Red Bulls? And you know what? I never liked the way he carried himself. And I think that lesson learned. You can be confident. You can even be cocky, but he waving at the support, the opposition support, all the stuff that he did. And hopefully he learned his lesson because he was a pretty good player, but obviously he's really only a pretty good player. But let's see if he can find his form again.
Yeah, I mean, because there was a time while he was at Red Bull when he first came out as a youngster. What was he, 18 or 17? I mean, he looked like he had tremendous potential to be somebody who maybe eventually would go on to Europe, but he's fallen off the face of the earth. I haven't thought about him in probably a year. You're saying Caden Clark, and I'm thinking Caitlin Clark, and I go, what, you're going to talk WNBA?
Yeah, maybe you should try the three-pointers. We'll see. All right, Jimmy, let's kick it around, dude. Well, Emma Hayes is like, she's a hero in England, everything she did with Chelsea, and now she's a hero in the United States, where she really got her start in coaching in Long Island and then with Iona College, but now the head coach.
Oh, you can tell by that Long Island accent she has.
Yes, exactly. Well, U.S. women's national team wins the gold medal. It's the first time they've done that since 2012, which you could say, well, but for them, the team that's been perennially the top team in the world, but they have dropped to number 5. And in the latter stages of Jillian Ellis and then Vlatko Adanovsky in particular, it just didn't go well. And the World Cup was for them was a disaster. Emma Hayes comes in, and 10 games, Roberto, only a couple of months, with the program. I mean, it really is pretty remarkable how she's been able to, and her leadership skills are are probably more so a part of her success than anything else. And she was able to instill that in a short period of time.
Coaching matters, doesn't it?
Well, this is an example of that. Yeah,
It really is, because I mean, yeah, she brought in some players, dropped some others, some of them, that were eye-opening. I don't like the way the Olympics puts together their soccer tournament, not only because of the fact that the games are so close together, but because you can only you can only dress 16 players when you have 5 lineup. I mean, what the heck is that? I mean, that's just brutal, and they've got to change that in the Olympics. I mean, come on. Well, you're trying to save money on that? Give me a break.
It has to be, I guess, the monetary side of it, or are they afraid they're going to run out of rooms in the Olympic Village? Or
I don't think so.
It makes
It's
little
idiotic.
sense. It could only make budgetary sense. There's no other way to make heads or tails of it, because it's a grueling event, and it's become more grueling because the athletes involved are more physically fit than they used to. I mean, it's a fact that on the men's side and the women's side, the athlete, you compare 10 years ago, the athletes there's science, there's different things that we've learned about how you treat the body, how you prepare the body, and all these different things. You need more recovery because of that.
Exactly. I mean, it's terrible. But look, she did a fantastic job. She had everybody pulling together as a unit. They love her. She loves them. The moment with Lindsey Horan in the press conference, and when she spoke about all of her leadership qualities and how important she was, and basically Lindsey Horan just like broke down because, of all the praise that she received, and deservedly so. But the team just played really well, and they did not have an easy path to the final. They had to play some of the strongest teams in the world to get to where they got. I mean, it is just a massive accomplishment. So congratulations to the U.S. women, to Emma Hayes, to everybody involved. It was golden.
Her top assistant, as I always like to reference Jersey in any kind of on-air time that I have,
Yes.
Her top assistant, Denise Reddy, former All-American at Rutgers University, a very good friend of mine, who I've watched play and then have watched coach. And her coaching journey is unbelievable. She's been Emma's assistant the last 5 years at Chelsea before coming over and now joining Emma with the U.S. women. Now,
so look at this, Glenn. Glenn, one quick thing. She's with Emma Hayes, and you're stuck with me. I mean, so you talk about divergent career paths.
And let's make this clear. Let's make this clear. I'm the head coach and you're the assistant. Let's just make this very clear. I'm stuck with you.
I am not a coach in any way, shape, or form. You don't want to hire me as your assistant as a coach. You really don't.
Now,
that's not my forte.
The U.S. U15 girls just competed in the CONCACAF championships and won it. And how about this? Carolina Reyna, that's Gio Reyna's sister, scored 11 goals in this thing. She was the top goal scorer, and so she won the Golden Boot, I guess. And she had 4 goals in the first half of a game against Jamaica. So there's another Reyna who is going to move her way forward. I have not seen her play. I haven't seen any clips or highlights of that, but interesting. When you carry that name, there's a little added pressure, that's for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Congratulations to her. That is fantastic. We look forward to seeing her in the future, and hopefully the career path continues as is.
And for those who follow Gotham, Mac Witham, who played at Slammers FC in Southern California for Ziad Khoury. And I mentioned that because Ziad is a friend and came on my show to talk about this young lady. In preseason, she scored a goal for Gotham as a trialist. They ended up signing her. She's the youngest player to sign a professional contract in U.S. soccer history at 14 years old. She also scored in this championship, and she has played 2 matches now for Gotham at the age of 14. Kind of crazy, eh?
Yeah, I want to get out to a Gotham game this year. I haven't so far this year, and I feel really bad about it. And especially they're champions. They're playing well. They're a fun team to watch. Go support them at Red Bull Arena, please, people. And don't New York City supporters boycott that because it's at Red Bull Arena. That's their home.
Well, that's where they play. So,
Yeah.
what are you going to do, man? That is their home. Just a couple of other notes, and it's on the women's side. It just so happens here in Kicking It Around. Anson Dorrance, he is the most legendary coaching figure in the history of the women's game, and I'm talking globally. 45 years at the University of North Carolina, 22 national championships. He won the first ever Women's World Cup coaching the team in 1991 in China, and he announced his retirement yesterday. And he had a massive influence on my coaching career because he was one of these guys that would share. He shares. I'm going to tell you one quick story, Roberto, about Anson Dorrance. The guy's a legend. And so many people would learn from him in his books. He was an open book. He would tell you what they're going to do and they'd still be, it was that kind of thing. And, but if you wanted to go visit them, and this is what I did, and a number of coaches do this, like Nick went overseas to visit Liverpool and Tottenham during the off season to soak in some education from those teams. So you go down to Anson to soak in the education. So what does he do? So, you ask him, Anson, can you recommend a hotel in the area, whatever? Oh, no, you just stay with me for a week. Just stay in his house. His wife, Melissa. Cool. And you just, and then you can just talk footy the whole time with him. And, there have been some people that have called him arrogant. He certainly has every right to be, but I think he's just a charming, fun-loving genius. The guy's a genius, and he has retired. He'll be on my show next week, and I'm going to share some clips on NYCFC Views, because people, if you don't know him, you should hear him, because he's an important, and not just on the women's side, he's a very important figure on the men's side as well, based on who he is and what he's accomplished. And then finally, National Soccer Hall of Fame. They had a list of 26 players who are first-year eligible. And there's only one absolute unanimous choice, but probably two. One is a woman, Carly Lloyd, and the other, Chris Wondolowski. That's what I think.
Those are shoo-ins. Yeah. And then there's some other candidates that you can go, depending on what you feel. But those two are shoo-ins. They'll be on my ballot. They'll 100% be on my ballot.
Who are you contemplating otherwise as a first-timer?
Not as a first-timer. I'm looking at some of the old-timers, some of the guys who aren't American, and how they contributed. Pescadito Ruiz, among others, Thierry Henry, and I've got David Beckham still isn't in. You've got to weigh these guys and what they meant to the game here, not only just by the fact of what their stats were or anything, because in Beckham's case, I know he didn't play here as much as he probably should have, because he was always going and playing in Europe, or he was injured, or things happened. But it's still, he has such a massive influence. So that's a tough one for me. Henry, I like what Pescadito Ruiz did, and I that's one of the guys that I'm probably going to support and vote for, because I think that they did so much for the game here. They really did. And I just think he's, he was a really great player in this league.
Well, to support what you're saying, while you were saying that, what came to mind to me, and I didn't know, Pelé, is he in the National Soccer Hall of Fame? So while you were speaking, I Googled it, and indeed, in 1993, he was inducted into the National Soccer Hall of Fame. Obviously, Brazilian, didn't play many years here, but his influence, was so massive that I'm sure that was unanimous. There's probably not anybody that didn't, write him in on their ballot. But I think it's valid to compare, people like Beckham, people like Thierry Henry, and the impact that they had. So, you do need to take a close look at that.
I mean, Robbie Keane, another one, a massive impact. And he might be, the greatest foreign player to have played in this league. You have an argument for that. I mean, there are arguments for other people as well. But Robbie Keane was massive over here. And he was, fantastic for the LA Galaxy for everything that he did. His attitude and his talent and everything that he did on the field. So, you have all those things. So it's going to be interesting. I got to go and look at the ballot again and see how I'm going to go. I'll talk to you about it, so you'll have a little influence on it. And
happy to contribute.
We'll go for there. I want to make the best choices that I can.
Oh, yeah.
So the right people get it. That's really what I want to do. More than anything.
The Hall of Fames, to me, it's almost like some years they've run out of candidates, but people still squeeze in that maybe. I'm not a big Hall of Fame guy. I'm just going to put it out there because I just think there's probably in all the Hall of Fame, the baseball Hall of Fame kills me sometimes too when I see some of the people that are voted in. I don't have an example for you. I'm just saying in general, what is the Hall of Fame? Man, you have to be like during your time, in that period, you have to be the best player in your league or one of the best players in the world or something, and influence, like you said. I mean, there has to be something that rises above all. I don't want to see a 280 hitter who hit 220 career home runs in the Hall of Fame. You're not in the Hall of Fame. You know what? You're a good player. You're a lot better than me, and you made a lot of money probably.
Yeah.
But you're not a Hall of Famer. You're not a Hall of Famer.
Fame is special.
Yes. Don't put any 280, 220 homer.
No. It's okay. There are no baseball players going into the Soccer Hall of Fame. I promise you that.
No, I don't.
We have a sponsor that we got to mention.
All right.
So let's go. So the nice people over at Homage, which specializes in ultra comfy, high quality looks, repping sports, pop culture, and legendary moments like I saw about 3 weeks ago as Glenn Crooks rocked a New York City FC hoodie. Yeah, it was very, very nice. So learn about Homage and get one of those nice hoodies like Glenn has.
You know what? I wore it on the road. I wore it on the road, Roberto, and all the one thing about young players and young staff, they're all they love gear, right? Everybody loves gear. So they were, and it's a different design. It's a different logo than we're there. It is. Well, open it up. Is your
going to open it yet? I'm giving mine to Eddie. I'm not opening up yet. But this is how it came. I've got this, and it's very, very cool.
All right, I'll try to remember to put it on next week on our show. But I will say there were a lot of people intrigued with it. There was an interest in it, so you can and we'll it'll be available to you for purchase. We'll give you more information.
And they're now like an officials. They're officially they're licensed to have MLS gear. So every team. So if you happen to be watching this and you're a supporter of DC United, let's say. So there's gear for them and the Crew and the Galaxy and LAFC and everybody else, not just New York City. So go check them out. Go check them out.
All right. English and Spanish. New York City FC Network airtime is 5:45 p.m. on Saturday. So remember, it's an earlier kickoff. Don't miss the kickoff. And that's part of our live commentary. Spanish also available on the SiriusXM app. It's channel 999. I listened to it myself at the New England game, and Roberto has disappeared. But we'll just I'll give him a plug anyway. If you want to listen to the Spanish commentary, also on SiriusXM. So that's going to do it for us. For Roberto Abramowitz, Jimmy producing. Thank you so much, Jimmy. I'm Glenn Crooks. Till next time on NYCFC Views.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast NYCFC Views on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.